Today we're going to talk about the point-slope form of an equation. Now mostly we've been doing slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept is when you know the slope and you know the y-intercept. And if you were writing that equation, you would just drop in the slope number here in front of the x, and you would drop in the y-intercept number on the end, and that would give you the equation of that line. However, if we just know the slope, and we know some random point on the line that is not a y-intercept. Let's say it's going through the point 1, 3, or maybe 5, 7. We can still write that equation using the point-slope form of the equation. Now you see the m here in the point-slope form, so m is your slope number. That's where the slope number is going to go. This x1 is where the x number goes in your point, and the y1 is where the y number goes in your point. So we're going to see what this looks like here in just a second, but this point-slope form and the slope-intercept form are on your reference materials for the STAR algebra test. So if you're looking at that poster in the resources, that is where you will see these two underneath the linear information. So anyway, let's go try this first set. I'm going to do the left-hand side with you. You're going to be doing the right-hand ones on your own and then checking them with the answer key to make sure that you got them right. If there's any that you don't understand why I got the answer I did, you need to email me so we can go over those. We can set up a Zoom time if you like, or you could come join the Zoom meeting, which usually I try to do a Zoom meeting around 4:20 every day and see if anybody gets on. Okay, so here we go. This one, they say, we're going to write the point-slope form of the equation. So we're not writing this version. We're writing the point-slope form. So this is what it's going to look like. Here is my x and my y. This line is going through the point 1, 3. That is not a y-intercept, so I am not writing this form. But this is the point x and the y, and it has a slope of 2. So here's the one I'm writing. Y minus, and then the y number. So we're going to write y minus, now y1 is where my number goes, and my y number is the 3. So this goes right here, y minus 3 equals. Here's my y minus the y number equals, and then the slope number comes next. Our slope number is a 2, so the 2 is going right here after the equal sign, parentheses, and after that comes x minus, and then the x number. So this is x minus, and then we're going to put the x number, and my x number is a 1. So that goes there, and you close the parentheses. So it's y minus a number equals the slope, parentheses, x minus the x number, and close the parentheses. So here's my y minus 3 equals 2, parentheses, x minus 1. The slope is the 2. The x number goes here with the x. The y number goes here after the y. So when you look at this equation in this format, you can see the slope, you can see that the x is a 1, and you can see that the y is a 3. Now you may be thinking, well, shouldn't it be a -1 and a -3? The formula says x minus. So right here, if I cover that up, that number that the x is your x number. So the formula is x minus, and then that is the x number. So here's my x minus, and 1 is the x number, which matches my point. The formula says y minus, and so here y minus is the formula, and the y number is a 3, so that is a positive 3 in the ordered pair. So that's the only tricky part, is recognizing that the formula is x minus, and positive 1 is the x number. Y minus is the formula, and a positive 3 is the y number. So that's the tricky part on using this. Once you get that figured out, you've got it made. But that equation is the equation in slope, or I'm not slope, but in point-slope form. Okay, so you're going to do number 2 just like we did that one. Number 3, again, they give you a point that the line goes through, and they give you a slope. So if they give you some random point and the slope, we're using the point-slope form. So again, the formula goes y minus, and then the y number. Now the y number is a -5, so I'm going to drop -5 after the subtraction, because it was y minus and then the y number, equals m for the slope number, and that is a 6, parentheses, and then x minus my x number. So here I'm going to write x minus, and then the x number is the positive 4, so that goes right there. Now, I'm not going to end it like this because I never want to leave two negatives together, and when you get two negatives like this, they become a positive. This is like saying the opposite of a -5 is a positive 5, or you could say this is like -1 times a -5, which gives you a positive 5. There's lots of ways to think about it, but in the end, no matter what, they become a positive 5, equals 6, parentheses, x minus 4, and close the parentheses. So now let's look at this. Remember, the formula was x minus, so there's my x minus, so that means my x is a positive 4, and that matches up here. X minus is the formula. Now the formula is y minus, so when you see this plus sign here, you should automatically think, oh, this is not a positive 5, it is a -5. So there's my -5. So when you see this plus sign, instead of my minus that's in the formula, you should immediately think that I had the opposite sign. So there's my -5. That's the tricky part. If you want to, you can take this plus sign and just make it into two negatives, and then you can see that the y number was a -5. So that's the tricky part. I'm going from the plus sign means it is a -5. If it's a minus sign, then it is a +4. And I know that sounds totally backwards from what we normally do, but it's just using that formula. So again, that's the tricky part of that. So you've got number 2 and number 4 to do. On this next section, they say write the point slope form of the equation of the line through the given points. So they want the point slope. So they're giving me some random point, and we have an m number. So here are this time they've given me 2 points, and they want me to write it in point slope form. So it's no problem with the point. I've got 2 points to choose from that I could plug in. What I don't have is the slope. So is there any way I can find slope from 2 points that the line goes through? Yes, we can use y minus y over x minus x. So we're just going to drop in our 2 y numbers. Remember, they're the second ones in the ordered pair, so that's a 7 and a 1 are the 2 y numbers, and 4 and 5 are the 2 x numbers. So if you type in that whole thing in the calculator and plug it in the calculator, it's going to tell you it is a -6 is my slope. So slope is -6. So now that I have my slope and I have a point, I can go write this in point slope form. Now there are 2 different points, so you can write this 2 different ways. You could write it with this point, or you could write it with that point. And it doesn't matter which one you do. If you're looking at a multiple choice test, you would look for the one that has one of the correct points in it. But don't mix an x from this one with a y on that one. If you're using this point, stick with it. If you're using that point, stick with it. So here we go. Y minus, and then the y, now I'm going to use the first point first. So this is a 7, so y minus 7 equals my slope, parentheses, x minus, and then my x number is 4. So that might be one equation that matches this. The second equation would be using this point. So again, y minus, and this is in 1, is my y number, equals -6, parentheses, x minus, and then the x number in this point is a 5. So either one of these equations is true. And if you were to simplify them down into y equals format, they are the exact same equation once you simplify them. Okay, so there's that one. You get to do one over here. Let's do another one. Again, they give you 2 points, and they want you to write it in point slope. So I need to find the slope in order to write it in point slope form. And then you can use either point for the point in it. So again, y minus y over x minus x. I'm going to plug in the two y numbers on top, -3 and 4. And then I'm going to plug in my x numbers, -3 and -5. And then you can type that all into the calculator and have it go simplify it for you. And I think this one simplifies down to -7/2 is the slope. So -7/2. So again, I can write 2 different versions depending on whether I want to use the first point or the second point. So y minus, and then this is a -3, so this is going to become a negative minus a -3, so this is going to become a +3, equals my -7/2, parentheses, x minus, and the x numbers are negative. So if I do minus a minus, whoops, I need to move it down here. So if I do x minus another negative number, it's going to become a big plus after I do those 2 negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and write it as the plus now, and this is a 3, and close the parentheses. So you can see the slope is -7/2, and you can see that this is not the minus sign, so my x number is a -3. There's my -3. And this is not my minus sign in here, so this is a -3, and there's my y numbers a -3. Now, if I wanted to use the second point, y minus, and my y number is a +4, so this is just y minus 4, equals -7/2, parentheses, x minus, and this is a -5. So if I'm going to do minus a -5, those 2 negatives are going to become a positive and change it to that. So in this, my x number, since there's a plus sign, that means that 5 is a -5 in my point. And the formula is y minus, and so my y number is a 4 in that point. So the +4 and a -x. So either one of those 2 equations would be fine. You only need to write one of them. You don't have to write them both. I was just showing you that both of them are correct. Okay, in the next section, and again, you're doing the ones on the right-hand side of the page. This one says write the slope-intercept form of the equation, which means slope-intercept form is our y equals, where you can see the slope and you can see the y-intercept, which means we need to solve for y so that y is by itself. So they had given us the equation in point slope form because you have y and a number equals a number in front, parentheses, x minus a number. Of course, that 2 is your slope. That 1 is your x number, and a -4 is the y number. all we're doing is rearranging this in slope-intercept form, so we're just solving for y. So whenever we're solving, we draw the line through the equal sign. This is what we want to get by itself. There's nothing to simplify on the left-hand side, so I'm just going to leave that as y plus 4 for right now. On the right-hand side, there's parentheses, so we can distribute to get rid of the parentheses. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times the negative 1 is negative 2. Now, there's nothing left to simplify on the right side because these two are not like terms, and these two are not like terms. We just want to get y by itself, so how do I get rid of this adding 4? Yes, we're going to subtract 4 to do the opposite operation to make it go away. If I do it to one side, I must do it to the other side. So the 4's cancel out. Y is now by itself. Oops. And I can bring down the 2x. And negative 2 and negative 4 is negative 6. So this is the equation in y equals format, or slope-intercept form. There's the slope and there's my y-intercept. This is the same equation in point-slope form. This equation and this equation, if you were to graph them, are identical. Okay? So all we're doing is solving for y. So that's why we learned how to do that in the first unit, just so that we could take any equation and put it in y equals format. Because on this STAR test that you are taking in May, your graphing calculator will not let you put this equation in and see a graph. So you're going to have to be able to solve them for y, and then you can put them in the calculator and see the picture and see the table and answer whatever you need to from there. That's why we're practicing this, solving for y. Okay, on the back. This time they want you to graph them, which is not hard, but we haven't done a whole lot of this yet. So again, graphing by hand. Here's my slope, or my point slope form, where I can see the slope and I can see the y number and the x number of the point. So they're giving me the equation in this format. So in order to graph this, we want to pick out the slope and we want to pick out the ordered pair. So the slope is the number in front of the parentheses over here with the x's. So there's a 2. So my slope is 2, and it's a positive 2. So when I get done with this graph, it should be going up. If it's not going up, I didn't do it right. Now, the x number is a 3, and it is a positive 3, because the formula says x minus. And the y number is a positive 1, because the formula says y minus. So there's my 3, 1 is the ordered pair. So this is the point that my line is going through, and this is the slope. And that's straight from looking at this equation that they gave me. Now, when we graph this, you want to find the point first on the graph, and then we're going to use the slope to find a second point. And then once I have 2 points, I can draw the line. So the ordered pair is 3, 1. So from the origin, I'm going to go right 3 and up 1. 1, 2, 3, positive 3, and positive 1. My line goes through that point. Now I'm going to use the slope number. This is the slope of 2, so that would be up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So from this point, I can go up 2 over 1, and there's my next point, up 2 over 1. You could do a whole series if you wanted to. You could also notice you could go down 2 and left 1, and still be in that same line, down 2 and left 1. So then you can just connect them with a little line, put a little arrow on the end because they're going both directions. So there it is. So when you're graphing, make sure you find the point first, and then use the slope number to find a second or a third point. This one, again, they've given you the point slope form, and we're going to graph it. So we need to find the slope, which is the negative 5 halves here in front of that. So when I am done graphing this, this line should be going down from left to right. If it's not, I did something wrong. The ordered pair. Here's the x number, there's the y number. So the x number is a positive 3 because the formula says x minus. So I have a positive 3 for the x number. So my positive 3 and the x number. Now this that they gave me says plus 4, but the formula says y minus, so this is a negative 4. Because that's how we got the plus on by having 2 negative signs together. So I have 3 minus 4 is the point, so go find the point first. So from the origin, go right 3, 1, 2, 3, that's the x number, down 4 for the y number, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here is my point. My line goes through, oops, over here. So I went right 1, 2, 3, and down 1, 2, 3, 4. That line goes through this point. I'm going to use the slope, which is negative 5 over 2. But if I go down 1, 2, I'm running off the graph. But that 5 is a vertical change, so I'm going to go up 5 instead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's still a vertical of 5. And then I need to go over 2. Now, if I go right 2 and draw the line like this, is that going to be a negative slope? No, it won't. So I'm going to go the other way instead. I'm going to go up 5 and then go left 2. Now, if I draw it, will it be a negative slope? Yes. So always double check that the slope is going the way you want it to, whether it's positive or negative. So there's your graphing on that. So you got 2 over here to practice with. At the bottom, here's a little mixed practice. They say write the equation of the line having a y-intercept of 3 and a slope of 2. So notice that these are all in y equals format. That is very easy because all I got to do is pick out the slope number and the y-intercept. Of course, our slope number is the number in front of the x, and the slope is a 2. So that is not a 2, that is not a positive 2, that is not a 2, but this one is a 2. Is my y-intercept 3? Yes, it is. So what is the answer? C. So you're just picking out the parts in the equation. I just want you to be able to recognize when it's in slope-intercept form what these pieces are. When it's in y equals format, the number in front of the x is your slope. The number on the end is the y-intercept. Now in this one, they want you to write the equation of the line that this table matches. One way to do it, since you have a graphing calculator, is we could, and these are all in y equals format, we could put each of these equations in the calculator and go look at their table and see if any of these match the table. So that is a lovely way to do it. Now, I'm also thinking, there's a 0 in this, and I'm thinking, ooh, could that be the y-intercept? Well, there's a 0 in this, but the number is in the x position, so this is an x-intercept. Will the x-intercept show up in this? No, it won't show up in this. All we see are the slopes, and we see the y-intercept numbers. So one way to do this is to just go put each of these in the calculator and go see which one matches that table. Now, if you're trying to do it without a graphing calculator, could you calculate the slope with y minus y over x minus x? You could, because this has a positive 1, and that says negative 1. This one says positive 1, that one says negative 1. So when you find the slope, you're either going to find a positive 1 or a negative 1 and rule off 2 answers. So that's one way to do it, but the easiest would be to just put them in the calculator and look at their tables. Okay, on the last page, you are practicing now, point slope form. So they're going to give you the point and they're going to give you the slope, and you are writing it in point slope form. So you're just writing your equation. Okay, you're going to drop in the x number and the y number, and you're going to drop in the slope. So you're just practicing dropping those things in and checking to see whether you needed to make those two negatives into a positive or whether you leave it like they are. So that's just practice on that on the top 6. And then the bottom 6, they give you the equation in point slope form, and they want you to pick out the slope and they want you to pick out the point. So remember, this slope is right here in front of the parentheses where the x is. So up here, here's the slope. It's right in front of the parentheses with the x. So point slope is y and then a number, equal sign, something in front of the parentheses, x, and then a number. So this is your x number. That goes here. This is the y number, but it's not y minus like the formula is, so this would be a negative 2 for the y number, and this would be a positive 4 for your x number, and of course the slope is 2/3. So you're just picking those out and writing down the slope and the point that goes with each of those point slope equations. And that's your practice for today.